Saints Row is out this week on pretty much everything apart from the Switch, and you can check out our review on the site and the channel. We've been putting it through its paces on the PS5 to see how it performs. As it stands, this is the only version of the game that we have available, and unfortunately my PS4 Pro is otherwise engaged. But if the demand is there, then I will attempt to get it sorted and compare between the last and the current gen. On the PS5, there are a total of 5 graphical modes to choose from, each corresponding to a resolution and a frame rate target with a couple of options as well. So let's take a look. I chose a short path to an activity, completed it, went for a little drive and then reloaded a manual save in order to keep things as consistent as possible, but bear in mind that as with all open world games, there is a degree of randomness. Before we get started, a note about the ray tracing. The console port exclusively uses ray traced ambient occlusion. There are no RT reflection here, as every mode uses screen space reflections, which you can see here in this puddle and the tree being cut off as the camera pans up and down. So we'll start with the 4K mode. This runs at a seemingly native 4K resolution, but with some very nice detail. Edges are crisp, with textures looking as good as they can do, but the issues in the frame rate are immediately apparent. Thankfully, the game doesn't drop below 30 frames a second, however, it is wildly inconsistent, ranging anywhere from the low 30s to the high 50s. And unfortunately, there is no option to cap the frame rate at 30 frames a second, which would be an ideal solution to this inconsistency. For the most part, VRR wouldn't make up these differences either, as it falls below the threshold far too frequently. With all that being said, I can't really recommend this mode unless you're absolutely not fussed about the fluctuations in the frame rates. The menu option for ray traced ambient occlusion doesn't appear in the menu, but with the performance being what it is, I'm tempted to say that it is indeed in play here, as the lighting does look a little more natural.
Newsflash! Santo Ileso. An anarchist plot to blow up the Santo Ileso sign proved unsuccessful when the explosives failed.
Next up, I'm going to cover the 1080p modes. So first off, we have the ultra quality mode. This brings higher general quality settings into play, as well as using the ray traced AO. For the most part, we get to see why RT-enabled graphics cards on PC are so expensive. The RT implementation, even at 1080p, doesn't allow for a smooth 60 frames a second in its current guise. However, if you turn it off, then things do improve to the point you get a pretty much locked 60 frames a second with those improved textures. Bear in mind that you will have to put up with a slightly softer image, as naturally you're running it at 1080p. Moving into the max frame rate mode, we can see what we've come to expect from an awful lot of games this generation. It's basically a straight line locked at 60 frames a second. There's a few occasional dips, but on the whole, this is a locked 60. The image quality, as with the ultra quality mode, does suffer a little bit with the reduced resolution, as I mentioned, but it's the frame rate that's the big draw in these modes. So now we hit the compromise zone, aka 1440p. These two modes here focus on quality and performance, with the quality mode adding in an option for that ray traced ambient occlusion. Similar to the 1080p mode, it doesn't quite hit a steady 60 frames a second. This time it hovers around the mid 40s. And sadly, much like the 4K mode, this won't allow VRR to make up for the dips below 48, as there's no LFC or low frame rate compensation on the PS5. So unless the developers do some trickery to make things smooth, think Marvel's Spider-Man in their 40 frames a second mode, you're going to see those fluctuations. In this instance, it doesn't look like this has been done on Saints Row, so you're stuck with that wavering frame rate. I do feel that a 30 frames a second cap may have been the answer here as well, which would allow for a little bit more headroom to potentially get some better textures or more graphical options, or even a little bit more from the ray tracing side of things. Sadly, if you do turn off the ray tracing here, it doesn't have the same impact that it does at 1080p. It almost keeps the frame rate the same as when it's turned on, so with that in mind, if you're going to use the 1440p quality mode, I'd suggest leaving RT turned on, but you'll still have the issue with the frame rate.
Down for the count.
And finally, we have our recommended way to play the game, the 1440p high frame rate mode. This turns off the ray traced ambient occlusion, drops a couple of other settings, and gives you a smooth enough output to not necessarily worry about it. For the most part, the game outputs in the high 50s with extended periods of solid 60 frames a second. And for those who have VRR capable TVs, you'll notice that there are no dips below 48 frames a second, so you'll be able to use it here and see the full benefit. The lowest frame rate that I encountered during my testing was 49 frames a second, so on the borderline, but everything else was pretty much sitting well above 50. It should be noted here that there have been several patches during my time with the game. I am currently running this on the latest one that is available, so I would expect a little bit more tweaking to come from Volition to further improve the frame rate. But as it stands, the 1440p frame rate mode brings that perfect blend of image quality and frame rate to satisfy most people. And there we have it. That is how Saints Row runs on the PS5. Our official NGB stamp of approval recommendation is to play this in the 1440p frame rate mode, especially if you have a TV that's capable of VRR. If you don't, and you're particularly sensitive to frame drops, then 1080p quality with RT turned off is the way to go. Then everything else in the order that we're showing it on the screen now, from best to worst. The 4K mode is probably perfect to take screenshots in, but until a frame cap is implemented or LFC is added into the PS5, it just feels too inconsistent to enjoy for long periods of time. The good thing is that you can change the resolution on the fly without having to quit out of the game or anything like that. Any changes are immediately reflected in the game, so you can go into a menu, change the option, come back out, go back into the game as if nothing ever happened. So if you want to tool around in photo mode or take some screenshots, flick it over to 4K, get your screenshot, then go back to whichever mode it is that you're using. And that's going to do us. Thank you for joining us, guys. If you have enjoyed this video and you've taken something from it, please do leave a like down below and also drop us a comment. Let us know if you're playing Saints Row, how you're going to be playing it, which console are you on PC, which mode are you going to use. Let us know. Yeah, be sure to subscribe to the channel because we've got a bunch more videos in the pipeline ready to go. So yeah, we will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.